Do you fondly remember the Mark II Escort, the Capri, and of course the unforgettable Cosworth? They just don't make them like they used to now, do they? Well, Ford would tell you that actually they do, and it's called the Puma. At first glance, the Puma may seem to be far too pretty to be in the same category as those motoring legends. And whatever you think about the trendily labelled new age styling, you've got to agree that it's striking, it's dramatic, and it does without doubt deserve and always get a second look. But still, it's too pretty to be taken seriously, I hear you sneer. And horror of horrors, it shares its chassis with the Ford Fiesta. True car enthusiasts everywhere will of course rest their case at this point. But hang on just a minute before you dismiss the Puma as another Vauxhall Tigra. A sporty looking bit of fluff for the girls to drive. All talk and not a lot of action. If you're serious at all about your driving, ignore the Puma at your peril, because you'll be missing out on the kind of drive that will send a shiver down your spine and put a smile on your face. Ford's designers and engineers must have been having a great week when they settled down to design the Puma. This is one car that feels like it's been designed by people who love their cars and who want you to love the Puma as much as they obviously do. Everything about it has been put together with a lot of thought. The Puma's body may well look like a sculpted work of art, but Ford have actually remembered the interior as well, which is something of a rarity in the car world. OK, so the dashboard is straight out of the Ford Fiesta, but look at the nice little touches they've added to it. All this lovely shiny chrome, dials that glow green in the dark, the beautiful steel gear stick, and of course the cute little Puma badge just to finish it all off. But all of that is simply the icing on the cake. The Puma could be as ugly as the Lada Riva and it really wouldn't matter. Because once you put the key in the ignition and turn it on, that's when you realise that this is no tarted up Fiesta. The Puma is a bit like a selection box. It's packed with more treats than are really good for you. It has an all-new 1.7 litre engine, 16 valves, variable cam timing and class-leading torque. Who cares exactly what it does or how it does it? Just take my word for it, it all works together perfectly. The Fiesta's old 5-speed gearbox has undergone a radical makeover and been shortened, and it just begs to be flicked through those close-ratioed gears. The throttle needs just the lightest of touches to send that rev counter soaring, and the Puma accelerating like, well, a bit like a Puma. 0 to 60 in 8 seconds and a top speed of 130 miles per hour. Ford have paid attention to the suspension, making it tougher, not too firm, but just enough. Enough to ensure superb, precise handling, and the kind of agility at corners that you'd expect from something with a much higher price tag than its £14,500. Now, if you're not drooling by now, boys, and you still have a few doubts about the Puma's pedigree, then let me tell you this. The chassis, well, it's been developed by Ford's clever engineers in the Special Vehicle Engineering team, chaps who really like their cars. The chaps responsible for the Escort Cosworth. I rest my case. Are any of you eating your words yet? But the real beauty of the Puma is that it has all of that and more. Its power steering makes parking a breeze. The nippy responses mean it's a joy to drive around busy towns. And out on the motorway, it has all the power you need and then some. And it still feels as solid as a rock. But wait, because there's still more. The Puma may be packed with fun, but it has a sensible side too. It's insurance group 12, not bad for a car in this class, and it should do around 40 to the gallon, which is quite respectable. And you know, you can almost convince yourself that it's actually a family car, as long as your kids don't grow up to be too tall. And just take a look at this, because it does without a doubt have an absolutely huge boot for a car in this class. And it even has a split folding rear seat. And because the Puma shares so much with the Fiesta, You won't be stung for huge servicing bills and specialist parts. And because a Puma's only being sold through a limited number of Ford dealers in limited numbers, that means it should hold its value rather well. So now I've told you how wonderful it all is, it's time for me to say what I don't like, to criticise and to complain, that thing that women do rather well. And this should take me, about 5 seconds tops. I think the wheel arches are too high, it makes the car look a bit jacked up. The back window may look fantastic, but it's like peering through a letterbox. And the hinge on the fuel flap is a bit cheap and it looks like it might snap off easily. And that's it. If only all our complaints were that short, how easy life would be. But the Puma is one of those rare cars that makes you realise that driving isn't just about getting from A to B. In the right car, driving is all about having pleasure. The Puma makes you want to get out and go for a spin in it instead of sitting there in front of the TV. Of course, the downside to all this is that your petrol bills will definitely shoot up if you become the owner of a Puma. And that's because you'll find yourself taking the longest route home that you possibly can.